The purpose of this video is to show you how I write literature notes for my Zettelkasten. I'll also show you some bibliographic notes and index notes, as well as how I set up the particulars of my Notion templates for each of these notes. A year or so ago, I read the book Gathering Moss by Robin Kimmerer, so in this video I am doing what I call backsettling. This is just writing notes on old reads. You can see that I used to underline sentences of interest, but that is something I no longer do and is not important for this video. When reading, if I come across a fact or passage that seems especially interesting or useful, I will take a piece of scrap paper, write a fleeting note, and place it as a bookmark on the page of interest. In this video, I only write one note, but usually I batch notes. I read through several pages or a whole chapter, littering the pages with scraps before turning to my laptop to type up literature notes. Here you see me writing my fleeting note. I don't focus on grammar, spelling, complete sentences, or even complete thoughts. My only goal is to write something that will reignite the idea I found in the passage. I want to write a note about the historical use of moss as insulation in this example, so all I really need are a few words about the specific places moss was used. Here is the final fleeting note I created. Now I turn to my digital Zettelkasten. First, let me show you the bibliographic note for Gathering Moss. I show you this first because once I have written a single fleeting note for any book, the first digital note I write is always the bibliographic note. Writing these notes first makes it infinitely easier to cite ideas. I universally use APA format, but you may, of course, use any citation format that works for you. I will usually write about 1 to 2 lines about the overall purpose of the book. It is, of course, labeled as a bibliographic note. I can update the status of the note when I have finished writing it. I don't think I have ever placed a bibliographic note in an index because it's already going to be heavily backlinked. I do tag the bibliographic Zettel though. These tags are a little weak. Plant is a bit vague and I try to be as specific as possible while tagging notes. But when determining tags, I would say the general rules I follow are be specific, use as few as possible, and tag based off of the ideas you are most interested in while reading the original content. I read this book looking for practical uses of moss, so you see 2 of the 4 tags pertain to the utility and service mosses may provide to humans. For bibliographic Zettels, I name the notes based on the title and the author. This is because I want to distinguish ideas from books. Some authors create titles that could very easily be good note titles. For instance, Why We Sleep could be an index or keyword note, so having the author's name in the title helps me quickly realize that the note is a book, not an idea. Alright, now let's dig into actually writing the literature note for the fleeting note we just created. First, I title the note or click the template. Next, I might add or create a few tags. If you use Notion, keep in mind that looking up words in the search bar will not only look through tags, but also the note title. So there's no need to repeat phrases such as moss or insulation. After that, I add the reference by typing 2 open square brackets and beginning to type the name of the bibliographic Zettel. It should appear after a moment and you can click on the suggestion to autofill the rest. This links the bibliographic Zettel. Since I use a template, I don't need to change anything in this instance, but you can see that the note is already labeled as a literature note and its status is still in progress. I don't add a note to an index until after I've written the content, since I'm not sure if it would be more sensible to link it to another note or a permanent note. Remember that some notes never go directly into an index. Okay, now I can create my in-text citation. I go to the linked bibliographic Zettel and collect the publication year and author's name. Since this note only comes from one page, I can go ahead and put that number in. Alright, at last we can write the note's content. This may seem like a long process, but after getting used to it, I can do all of this note preparation in about 30 seconds and then quickly dive into actual content writing. So here it goes. I may write about 2 sentences for this Zettel. It isn't too complicated and it doesn't need much expanding, I don't think. Now, after I have written the first draft of this note, I see some wording that I think is a little awkward, so I can go back and fix it, but on the whole, I think this note is pretty much set. Now I see this note appears in my workflow since it has not been linked yet. For the sake of this video, I will put the note in my Moss index, but intuitively, I think I would prefer to wait until I had a few more notes of a similar nature and link them together as individual literature and permanent notes. Maybe later I will write some notes and create the link chain. I open up my note and I link it to the Moss index. Then I mark the note as done. And that's all that there is to it. In the next section of this video, I will be going over a few of the template details from Notion. First is my generic Zettel template. I have spaces for a title, tags, and date created. I have the note type automatically set for literature note, since that is what I most often write, and the status of the note's progress. To begin, the status defaults to in progress. I also have a space to link this note to an index note, but of course there wouldn't be much benefit to having it autofill since every note is different. In the body of the template, I have a place for citations and for linking other related notes. The only other template I have in this database is for bibliographic notes. Here I have all the same fields. The only difference is that the note type is set to bibliographic note and there is only one field for citations. Okay, in my index note database, the only template is very simple, autofilling with only one index note type and date created. There is space for other details to be filled in, and of course the link between the index database and my general Zettels database is there. When I create an index note, I always have at least one literature note or permanent note I believe belongs inside it, so my template automatically sets the status to done. Some of the options you see here are relics of my earlier Zettelkasten system setup, but I have kept some of them since I see no harm in it and I may find a use for them at some point. So here's a brief look at a finished index note. The last alteration I make to an index note, and I suppose a keyword note as well, is to add a picture to the cover. Let's see what I have in my keyword note database. I really don't use keyword notes. I don't even have a template set. So I suppose that's it. Those are all my templates and a few more specific examples of notes I have written. I hope this gives you some ideas for your own Zettelkasten.